Welcome, Kate. Hello.
Hi, I'm super excited to be here. My audience also equally loves you as much.
We have a lot of crossover in our audience. Like my people are in your thing, they're in my thing. Like they hang out in both our little worlds, and I love that for them. So
Mhm.
for people that don't know, we'll definitely link your past episodes. You've been on the show a few times, so we'll link those past episodes in the show notes. You guys will definitely have to go get all of Kate's wisdom from the past episodes. But for people that don't know you, can you give us like your what? I don't even know what your spiel is these days. So tell us who you are, what you do. Give us your internet spiel.
So, hey, everybody. I'm Kate Doster of katedoster.com. I also do the Brave Thing online business podcast where I'm going to make sure you get dangerously practical advice to make sure that you actually take action in your business that's going to help get you results. And just like Faith over here, I'm going to make sure that you actually have the stick-to-itiveness to follow through. Because what I found is I can tell you to your blue in the face, like, use contractions, make sure you have call to actions at the end of your captions. But if I can't get you to do it consistently because you are nervous about selling, you don't want to come across as spammy, it's not going to work. So we talk about all things from email marketing to messaging to just being a business owner with ADHD, because I found that, go figure, a lot of the people that gravitate towards me and my style tend to also be a little on the neurodivergent side. So we talk about how to really wrangle your brain and to get stuff done without feeling like a sellout.
I love that. Well, it's so funny because I've always gravitated towards you. Kate was actually one of my first business coaches I ever hired when way back when I was a little baby entrepreneur. And I've always gravitated towards your stuff. And I recently got diagnosed with ADHD. So if you don't have it,
Yeah.
you do. Who knew? I was like, oh my gosh, my entire life makes sense all of a sudden. Like, oh, I do this. Oh, it's because of this. I was like, oh, there's reasons. Like, who knew? So that has been a very enlightening journey for me. I'm excited to have you on the podcast. I really want to have you on and pick your brain about changes we're seeing in the online business space. I do feel like things
Mhm.
have changed a lot. I mean, since I've started, we've seen all kinds of different changes. But I
Oh,
do
yeah.
feel like this year, particularly, at least to me, it feels like things have changed a lot in like marketing and online business. And so I wanted to hear from you, like, are you seeing that too? What do you kind of think? What are the trends you're seeing? Um, so when we look at things like compared to last year, what are some of the biggest differences you think you're seeing right now?
I think that, and again, I would love your opinion too. So, guys, this is literally just us talking, shooting the stuff about business, and you guys get to listen in. So, don't think it's going to be very formal. Just so you know, we're going to be interrupting each other. We're going to go back and forth. And again, this is what you get for hanging out with two neurospicy ladies. So, I think what I've seen a lot, and I had talked about this actually, I think not last year, but it was like the very end of 2020, like three, like going into this year, and I feel like a lot of people before, or even like a couple of years ago, especially during like the 2020 heyday, when like everyone was at home, everyone's income was being subsidized by the government, companies were still paying. People would just throw money at anything because they were stuck at home. So like it was really easy to sell like a $2,000 course where you never actually met the person, you weren't talking to them. People were willing to spend a lot of money all of the time because even though it was like unprecedented times, it was still like really certain. And what ended up happening over the last couple of years, you can go and look at any of your grocery bills and you're getting the same amount of food, but somehow you're like, how am I spending double? Right. For all the people that use like Walmart delivery or all those like apps, like go back and look at a year ago. And I guarantee you, you didn't develop really expensive taste. Everything just costs more to be able to survive. And I think what ended up happening is that it was a little bit of a delayed effect to how people spend their discretionary income. So we're not saying that like people aren't still going to want to like buy books on their hobby. We were talking about the B2C space before we started up on there. Like people are still going to want a scrapbook, right? They're still going to want help decluttering, right? Because now we've got all this stuff. But especially in the online making money space, people are a lot more wary because they have been burned in the past by so many people being like, oh, this is how you get rich quick, right? All like that influencer game. So I think that what I have seen is, while I still think that some creators can make like, massive bank being like, oh yeah, like my person got like six figures like in a week and all this sort of stuff. I think really where a lot of us should be switching is to more like reality-based marketing, right? Like, yeah, you can still talk about your highly successful students that you had or something that decluttered or feel great about themselves or lost a whole bunch of weight. But I still think that you need to actually shroud it in like the realistic part too. right? It's like, yes, you can be able, like in our case, right? Because we help people make money online. It's like, yes, you might be able to snowball this into your first 5-figure month, but realize our goal right now is just to get you constantly making an extra $500 because now that's going to take care of a week, sadly enough, right? We can have worth of groceries and we can build from there. So I think that's one of the things that I think people are being a lot more like weary of. I know, and I don't know if like you've noticed this too, and I don't know if it's still popular, but in a lot of the get rich quick schemes was a lot of like that private label rights. That was like really big last year. I don't know. Are you still seeing that a
I'm
lot,
still
like on your
seeing
feed
it.
and with your
I don't
students this
know
year?
why, but I'm in the algorithm. Instagram is like, you want to buy MRR. Like
Yeah.
so much of it. And I'll tell you, I've actually bought some of them because I have a B2B membership. I'm always looking for like templates I can give them that they can like use and resell. But what I don't like about it is the like idea of like you're gonna buy that product and then all of a sudden that's a business. I'm like, that's like the easiest part of the business. It's like making the worksheets. Like, and if you can't figure that part out, like you're probably gonna really have some hard times with the marketing. And like you need like a brand and marketing and all these things. And they sell it to you like, oh, you just buy this course and resell it and you already have the course, so your business is done and that's it. It's all there. It's just like there's a little more to
Right.
that. But I to your point though, I was just coaching in the mastermind and I was telling them like people are being very discerning with their money,
Mm.
right? They're holding it a little tighter. The cost of everything is insane. And people have been burned in the past and people are just more discerning with their money. So what are some tips that you have for like people during this time? Like I'd love to like give them like the reality based, this is what it's like I think that discernment has made that big flashy like lose 100 pounds in 10 minutes, make $1 billion in a year, like whatever, like that marketing worked so well and now it's kind of tapped out, I feel like. So when people are discerning, like what do you do with that as a marketer? Like what kind of things are you seeing working for people when buyers are holding their dollars tight?
I think that, and it's something that you also talk on, like obviously being confident in the products that you have and the offers that you have are always going to come into play, even if you are talking about very like realistic type of results that people can get. Again, and I think that even if you call it out, it's like, look, have people been able to do this in the past? 100%. But I'm here to get you to that first point. And so I think that being really honest in marketing helps. And I think especially this is more of a B2B space thing, but I definitely do think in B2C, depending on what it is, business to consumer, it is showing a lot more of your own self, which I think always should have been in authentic marketing. But it's like, if you're going to like teach people how to make money, it's like, go and get a result and then like talk about the result that you got for yourself, right? Or it's like why I'm doing this or how I did this rather than like, how you can build your email list this week. It's like, how I got 100 subscribers last week. People, especially on social media, are really gravitating towards like, oh, these people are actually showing like behind the scenes of their business and what's going on with those things. So I think those can work really well. I think also keeping in mind that, and talk about this, but people being more discerned with their dollars, it might have been one of those things where it's like somebody could have like met you. We were talking about Facebook ads, and our love of another creator, right? Where someone could have seen a Facebook ad, got your opt-in, immediately got, your tripwire and an upsell that you had for them because you sold them a thank you page and then you have like a little order bump, so a little bonus thing that they can buy. And then like 2 days later, like they're going to go ahead and buy like your bigger product, right? We might see that buyer cycle expand out a little bit more than it used to be. So that's also something to think about. But it doesn't mean you stop talking about your products altogether. It's just like, okay, like how are you going to? Like we talk about, I have a workshop, it's only like 47 bucks. And it talks about different ways that you can just like casually sell to your email list, right? So they don't always have to be hardcore pitches. But like, yes, you need to have a hardcore pitch every once in a while. But you literally can just have at the bottom of your email, right? Like the hottest things in the shop this week, or, PS, like we're struggling with this, that's going to help you. And so like remind people still that you have products and just don't think that you need to have like one live launch and that's it. Cause I think
Yeah.
that short of like, and we can talk about price point. I would love to talk about price point, like what you've seen in there. But I truly do feel like I don't think those like giant courses, while I'm sure that some creators are having such success, at least the circles that I've been in, no one's really talking about having a giant success with those super like courses in particular. I'm not quite sure about group coaching programs, but there's one person in particular that I'm talking about, and she used to share her income like all of the time. And then she just had a launch of a new like signature course. And I don't want to say only, guys, but compared to what she used to claim she made, she did say in this launch, because she follows what she talks about, that she made $50,000, which is life changing for anybody. But for her, she used to make that in a month with an automated funnel.
Yeah.
And now she did all this for a live launch. So you're like, oh, interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, for sure. I think something too is like I think it's normal for sales to fluctuate in business. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
normal for businesses to have up years and down years. I think it's normal most businesses if the economy is down and it's election year and like a lot of businesses, they'll have years where their numbers go down. We're tracking to do about the same what we were doing last year, but I think I've been like brainwashed from being in this space where it's like every month, every year, it's supposed to be like you're just supposed to grow, 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 grow. And every launch is supposed to be the biggest launch and every month is supposed to be the
Yep.
biggest month. And it was that way for me for part of my career, right? And it has been a real reality check to kind of be like, no, like businesses fluctuate. We're gonna have years. We might have a non-growth year. We might have a year where we make less money than the year before. And just kind of like grounding myself as a business owner and being like, and that's okay. And that's like normal in business. And it doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
over time the business isn't going to grow. It doesn't mean like I'm not going to hit my goals. It doesn't mean the business isn't working or I'm a failure. Or it's not going to, it doesn't mean any of that. It's just like, I think that's like a normal thing in business that has been like almost whitewashed in a way in from all these business coaches of like, oh, you're just supposed to grow all the time and like never stop growing. Are you seeing stuff like that with your students too, where some people are having, it sounds like where
Yeah.
people around you are having their businesses fluctuate?
Yeah, definitely about having their business fluctuate. And again, I love what you say. And there are some people, I'll call them influencers in the B2B space, right? Where what I really appreciate about them, and that's probably why it's like, oh, if I ever got like a course or if I ever wanted coaching, I would go to them first because a lot of people are seeing their revenue go down this year compared to last year, but not a lot of people are willing to talk about it. And don't get me wrong, there are some people that are having gangbuster years and we can talk about the things that we've seen working. I think that low ticket works really well.
Yeah.
I know like we've talked about before in one of the episodes I think you did for me, when you have to like kind of like pick your business model. And so people that I've seen be successful are those that are going for what we call like the large traffic model. But what they have behind it, because they're more advanced and don't do this if you're just a beginner necessarily, is they've got a low ticket offer, right? Something that's, like, $36 or $24, right? But then they have that order bump, right? So it's like, add this on for an extra $20, right? And then it's like, oh, then they have an upsell either in the welcome series for it or on the very next page where it's like they're getting someone initially in for $24, but by the time the card's done, it's 200 and they're at volume to scale, right? Because either they've got ads or they've been doing really well on social media. Like they're getting the eyeballs. And where the problem is when somebody's like, oh, I want to implement that strategy, but they don't have the eyeballs to support it.
Yeah. I see that all the time, right? Like,
But it stinks because, again, a lot of people now are just trying to buy those mini sort of easy S offers like we were talking about. But it's like, how do you make that business model sustainable, right? So like that's one of those things where it's like, oh, like this could work. But
yeah.
do you have the amount of eyeballs to be able to do it? And are you, and this is something that I love about you, are you willing to try new things to get that eyeball or to have like new revenue, right? And to
Oh,
try
I'm
these
out
things
there. I'm
out.
doing all kinds of stuff.
Right. And to try it out and to do things. And again, we're not saying like, oh, like don't launch anything or don't have anything and everything's bad everywhere. But like you said, it's to know like businesses ebb and flow. And even in the year, and I think that some people, especially if they've been around for a little while, the summertime can be really rough for a lot of businesses. Like, y'all, why do you think Amazon Prime Day happens in July? Why do you think if for those of you who might not have met me before, I'm into very like powerlifting, I'm into a fitness journey. And like all of the major fitness clothing brands all have giant sales in June and July because sales are so bad in the summertime for
Yeah.
everybody.
My business always is like Q2, beginning of Q3 is always the worst time for the business. It's always been like that. I mean, I can look at the books. I was just looking at our books and it's always like
Same.
Q4, boom, Q1, boom, Q2, Q3 are like sometimes half of what we do in those other
Yeah,
quarters.
Q3 is rough for us too. And like I'm looking at July and you're like, oh, right. And again, there are things that you can do to circumvent them, right? Like, if you do have, like, Faith has her amazing mastermind, right? It's not open all the time, guys, so you can't get into it. But maybe she'll open it at some point. You guys can get in soon. So, like, she'll have that reoccurring revenue that's coming in. But, like, again, she's still marketing all the time, right? If you have slightly bigger courses that have, like, the payment plans attached to it, like this, so that way you've got a little bit of something. But if you kind of, I don't want to say, like, brace for the storm, but, like, I like using the summer as an opportunity to, like, just try out different things, right? Like, maybe you don't normally run a flash sale. Maybe, like, you guys just had a really successful bundle, which I know we'll talk about on my podcast about just the state of running bundles right now. And it worked like gangbusters, right? That's what I tell people, like, in the summertime, if you want to try launching something new in the summertime, you can. You might not get as much money, but it's going to be to, like, your diehard people, right? So, like, I would launch it in the frame of, like, okay, this is a beta. So that way I can get the peoples, hopefully get some results, and then have something a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I do think like the summer is a real factor for us. It's always been that way. Election year is also
Mm-hmm.
like another, I mean, you guys think at the time of recording this, there's been a lot of crazy things happening in the election. And I'm like, this is just the warm up. I'm like, it's about to be like this all the way through.
Yeah,
And
and
so
ad costs are going to get really high.
yeah, it's gonna be like a whole like that's a real thing. Like it just takes a lot of people's attention and time and energy and you like you're saying money is a thing. So all these are real factors. It doesn't mean you can't make money, you can't make sales, you can't grow your business. I'll tell you, and I know people are not gonna like this, but this is the truth, you guys. Like I'll tell
Mhm.
you the thing that has brought me the most peace in the business of like letting some months be down because Kate will tell you like she was one of my first business coaches and I am a born hustler, right? And I've lived in
Mhm.
poverty like most of my life and I found success and I was like, I will make this successful, god damn it. And anything or anyone that is in my way can like take a seat, right? And get out of my face because I'm just not here for it. And I really pushed like every month to be my biggest month for a really long time. And the only way I really found to stop doing that was to pad the bank account. Now I just have a like now I
Same.
have a business bank account that's like if the summer is slow, it's fine. Like,
Because
and
we know about it. Granted, we was still, like, a lot of sales. Like, don't get us wrong. We're still like, money, you can come at us. Like, we'll help people out. But we know that's going into it. That, like,
I
we're in it, like, for the long game. We know the way that the seasons
I
kind of
know
go and how it works.
every month, like I don't want to have to push for every month to be the biggest month. I don't want to have to be pushing sales all the time. I also know like my health is going to change and like people in my life are going to die and like people will get sick. And that might be like dramatic, but when you guys are looking at running sustainable businesses, like if there's not money in that business account, I keep a lot of cash on hand in the business now. We have a lot of in the savings account and we have a lot in the checking account. And my business is still profitable, has been profitable every month. I haven't needed that money,
Mhm.
but just having it sitting there like gives me some peace. And for some of you, it might not be having like I have a lot of expenses, right? So I keep like $50,000 of cash on hand, right? But it costs me $14,000 a month to pay myself and pay my team and pay everybody that needs to be paid. So for some of you, I think like just thinking about letting your business make that money and start stacking at least a percentage of it into the checking account and not spending everything that you're making and literally letting it sit there. And then when people ask for refunds, when launches don't go well, when things happen, you have so much more time to react when you have that cash on hand. And so that's always my biggest advice for people. And don't think it's too late, right? It's like you can always do something to bring in a little extra cash and just be like this is just going to go in the bank account, right? We're launching a template right now to make interactive digital planners and workbooks, and the reason I did that was because I wanted an easy way for people to make quality low ticket products that people would like to buy that would be
Mhm.
fun and unique, right? And it's like you could put something like that together in a few hours and sell it for the next few months and just let that money be like this is just going to be padding money. Let
Mhm.
it sit there with nowhere to go.
Right. And I think that, like, and we have talked about this again. In case if you guys have not been following us for the years that we have been friends and hanging out, like, both of us were dirt poor. Like, I started my business on food stamps as a stay-at-home mom, right? Faith was living in a tent. Okay. Like, we know what it is to be broke, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't want you guys to ever feel bad. And we're probably like the only two influencers I know they'll talk about this. Like, if you need to have a 9 to 5, or you need to like do Uber, like we were talking about, like, you know, like
Oh
Walmart, right?
yeah.
Like do Walmart, like grocery delivery, right? If you don't want to do like Walmart, like Uber Eats or anything, like Walmart, I know like it's not their employees anymore that will do the deliveries. Like people can subsidize it. I don't want you thinking anything less about you and your business if you have to do it. I want you to think of that as another stream of income. Like, I think that's where
Oh
people get
yeah.
it wrong. It's like, I have to. And then again, if you're like, well, like, Faith, like I don't even make anywhere close to $14,000. Like, how could I pad my business? Right. You're going to pad your business with those other forms of income, right? With those other gig style things if you need to, right? Or again, like I know you've got your Airbnb, right? So it's like,
It,
don't think that it just has to be your one digital planner that Faith taught you how to do in the mastermind for $7 that's going to have to support you. That's not fair to that product. It's not fair to
it's
you.
such a good like point too. And I'm always on this about like I'm like team side hustle all day because I'm like the
Yeah.
truth is like you have to have money coming in here. Like people will they will let people rot in the street here. And that's just the truth of it, right? So it's really serious, right? And I think yeah, I think there's this whole shame with entrepreneurs about like, oh, I have to get a side hustle or I have to supplement my income or I'm not full time yet or I was full time and now I'm not anymore. And I just think like that's totally normal in business. Like most businesses that are big and profitable get investors. Like they don't just break even
Yeah.
their first year and start being profitable. Like restaurants don't usually cash flow their first year. Or Airbnb is not going to cash flow the first year. Like there's lots of businesses that like don't cash flow. Like you have to invest time and energy into them. And that's why when you guys see people doing startups and stuff, they're not like funding those by themselves. They're going and getting millions of dollars of startup money. And if you don't have investors and you're not going to go get investors, then you have to fund it. Right. And that money has to come from
Yeah.
somewhere. Where is the money going to come from? And it's like, it might come from your 9 to 5. Like that's how I started mine was like, I just siphoned the money from the 9 to 5 into the
Yeah.
business.
Right. And I think that people are like, oh, well, like, you know, no one's going to want to buy for me or no one's going to want to hire me or do anything for me if I'm not like on this other level, right? Like if my house is like pristine and perfect, like you would be surprised. One of like my favorite people that I watch, this is an ADHD hack for all of you, because I know y'all are listening, right? I listen to a YouTube video. Her name is Remy. And she will literally just videotape and then she'll voice over herself cleaning her house. She also has ADHD. She's got 2 kids. It gets messy. So it's like we literally like co-work. So like on Sunday when I have like my reset day, I'll put Remy on in the background and together we're just like cleaning, right? She never says that she's perfect. Of course, there's some haters in the comments, but guess what? The haters in the comments get a million replies back from people in her community being like, get out.
Yeah,
Like,
that's so
how could you ever let your kitchen look like that? It's like, do you not know that like people like deal with things? Like, what good does it do to point this out? That type of scenario. Or again, I'm very big in like the health and wellness space, right? Like, you can be someone who's just like, here's what I did so far for this. Like, you don't need to be fear mongering or any of that. And I just think that it's really, again, I think coming back to authentic marketing, being okay with different revenue sources, like we had talked about, is really key, and not letting a down month or down week or because like you don't make sales every day make you feel like you're any less of a person or a failure. Like you can
normal
be
business owners
frustrated
say.
where you're like, oh man, like again, like this used to work. Like we're really big. And it's something this summer because it's not necessarily getting a lot of traffic, but I'll be the first one to say I haven't promoted it a lot. Like looking at our auto webinar funnel that we had for our bundles course. And it's like, okay, like why isn't this converting like it used to? Now, granted, again, in the summertime, traffic's a little bit down, but it's like, okay, how can I take the bones of why these things work and try something new? I think that's what's exciting about this time. It can be scary where it's like, I don't think that people necessarily want to sit through an hour-long webinar. So like, I cut it down to like 20 minutes, right? So I'm like,
Yeah.
let's try that. Like, let's have an audio version of it when people sign up that they can get both and see how they like it. Like, look at the, you know, different like email sequences, right? And like, again, we'll try different things like, okay, like, you know, let's have like a funnel only bonus and all this sort of stuff. So I think not relying on like one thing or like, this has to work, if that makes
And if
sense.
it doesn't, it means I suck and no one will ever buy from me.
Right. And again, especially say if you're in the B2B space, and you're like, well, if I teach people how to make money, but like I'm not making that money, it's like, yeah, well, you're in the thick of it. You probably don't want to be like, hey guys, my business is suffering, everything blows. But like after you sort of figure your way out of stuff, or you can just talk about like, hey, I'm sort of struggling right now. Like it's okay if you're struggling too. And I think that people will really respect it. And one of the emails that I had sent out, because the ADHD and the being at home with the kids, I'll be honest, I just have not been at the business. So like we have the natural summer slowdown. We have just me just like, popping off, not having any big promotions in the summer. So business is down typically like it is right now. And it was just like, the only thing that I want my audience to think about is literally the phrase, just one more time. Just one
Ooh,
more
that's
time.
good.
That's it. Just one more time. Just one more email. Just one more reel. I think like everyone is like, oh, like I need this reel to pop off, or I spent so much time on it, it didn't work. And you feel like you're gonna have to do this forever and ever and ever. Just one more. Just one
Oh,
more.
that's
That's
so
all I'm
good.
gonna ask you for. Just one more time. And so that's like the whole philosophy and the whole energy that I'm trying again with myself, right? Like it's like we had our bundle in February. It went well. I was so sick, guys. And we had every
You
tech
had
issue
everything go
imaginable.
wrong on that for
I
a
was
little launch.
so ill. Like it was
Oh my
Abby's like, how,
gosh.
and we had like live calls and panelists. She's like, I don't even know how you survived for that hour. I'm like, I literally timed it. So I drugged myself up for that hour. Right.
I've
And
done a
it was
launch
just
like
like,
that too.
so
I know.
a
Oh
lot
my
of people would be like,
gosh.
I don't like I teach bundles and like I was the first one to move to my audience. Like it went well, but like we had so many issues. So like this is the stuff to like help prevent last time. And I'm just like, you know what? After that, I'm just like, I don't know, guys. But I'm like, you know what? Just one more time. So I'm like, I'm turning 40 in November. So I'm like, we're gonna run an event during Halloween because my birthday is the 4th of November. And I'm like, we're just gonna do it just one more time, right? Just send one more email. And you're gonna find out that guess what? You're gonna send just another one more email, another one more this. But it's like, you can do it. And it takes a lot of the pressure off,
I love that because
right?
it does kind of like neutralize it, right? And I actually use a really similar mantra for my launches because my brain will just be like, oh my gosh, like this launch, and it will like blow it into this huge thing. And our
Same.
launches are a fairly big production. Like
Mhm.
I spend a lot of time planning the content for them and making the promo for them and teaching. And like, it's like a whole 6 week thing when it's all said and done. And my brain will like just blow it into this huge, like scary, pressure filled nightmare. And what I started thinking that really helped me is like, it's just one launch. My brain will be like, oh, yeah, like has to be this. And it's like, it's just one launch. I'm going to have like 100 more launches in my career. Like I'm going to have hundreds and hundreds of launches.
Mhm.
This is just one launch. It's just one sale. It's not like the thing. It's not like a big thing. It's like, there's something about reframing things where it's like, you know what? Is it that big of a deal? Is it really that serious? Like, there's something for me that's like very helpful about that. That's just kind of like, yeah, I like that. Just one more. I'm like, it's just one launch. It's not that big of a deal.
Right? I don't think it's just, and then again, it doesn't seem like it's infinite or it's forever and it takes the pressure off. And again, and I think that's why both of us focus so much on both sides of business. Like, because our stuff is super practical. Like, we're literally like A, B, C, and D people, but then we're going to still make sure that you can actually complete it. Or if things don't go as well as you think, right? Like, these are the things. And that's what I think, again, I don't want to say that before any schmo. I feel like any schmo could make money back a couple of years ago. I'm not like, oh, everyone sort of missed the boat. But I think now you're seeing like who is in it for the long haul, right? Who is willing to innovate, right? Who's
Yeah,
willing to stick it out?
definitely. I'm always like, I kind of love these times where like things get hard and like it's like because I'm scrappy and I just know like we're gonna figure out something that works and I'm still gonna be here and all these other like spammy coaches can like sit down and I'm like, this might not be for you, but like me and my team will be here and we'll figure it out because I just am gonna try something until we get it to work. Right. And I don't know about you, but I always find like my best ideas for that. Like I think the space requires a lot of innovative thinking and a lot of coming up with your own ideas. And like you
Mhm.
don't get away with as much just following other people's stuff anymore or following the method. It's like you have to think of something new, right, to make yourself stand out. And for me, those best ideas come in the business when I'm having fun, when it's not so pressure filled and it's almost like when I get into that place of like, it has to be the biggest month and the launch has to be successful and this is important and this is a big deal. And like, I'm going to take it very seriously. It's like I cut off the access to like my own genius. Right. And so I really think there's something to like having fun in the business. Take some of the pressure off. Like, let it not be so serious all the time. And you'll find like, then you'll be in the shower and you'll be like, oh, I know what we should do. Or like I
Right?
was
Like
working out yesterday and I was like voice memoing my team, my poor team. I'm like, I just had an idea.
Yeah.
right?
Poor Abby gets that too, right? Where it's like, I know. And again, for the summertime and in general, I would like her to be able to just work like a 4-day work week. But in the summertime, we're like testing out like, different weird. I'm like, I know they're supposed to be off right now, but and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And she just like rides the wave and like does it. And she's like, okay. Cause again, I do think there are always going to be certain principles that work, right? Like you need to be in front of people. You need to be able to talk to those people in a way that can express the value of your product, whatever you're selling, whether it is $7, whether it is a monthly membership. You have to be able to express to people why it matters to them and how it can help them. And again, what makes it different,
Yeah.
right? What are you pouring in there, right? I am a big proponent, and I know not a lot of people talk about this when it comes to selling. You can talk about the shortcomings of things too, right? Like it's like, yeah, like you might find a tempo in this, or this might be too long, or like, if you sell this or this, like it's not going to help you, like, right? You can talk about those things, right? But talk about like, again, who was your person that it was absolutely made for? And one of the concepts that I've been talking about for years, I call it moments. And I feel like those are really, I mean, they've always hit home with people, but like they super hit home with people now. So it's not like, oh, are you frustrated because the scale still goes up, right? One of those sort of scenarios. Like everyone sort of knows that, right? But it's like, at the start of the summer, did you just feel like you were so nervous to go over to your closet and to see if your shorts fit because you were going to be devastated if they didn't, right? So like being able to describe like scenes and just like really getting down in there with people, I think can really help. And it's not, again, it's never about making people feeling bad or awful. It's about making them feel relatable, right? Like, again, if you were helping people launch, like, have you been launching your ass off for the last 3 months? And you've been trying, and then you need what X, Y, and Z is, but like you're still looking at a PayPal account with $200 in it, right? Here's something for you to try one more time, right? Just one more time. Let's see if
Yeah.
we can get this to work for you.
Yeah, like being very specific in like what you're talking about. I think having a product that you know can get people results, that gets them results that they want to pay for, right? Not just like any
Mm-hmm.
result, but like something they are looking for help with. And then making a great product around that, but then having the language to be able to communicate that, right? I have so many people in my community that come to me and they're like amazing astrologers or they're amazing yoga teachers and they're very, very highly trained in their craft. They're like very good at what they do and they struggle with the marketing and the sales, right? And that's what we teach them how to do is like communicate why it's great. I'm always telling the mastermind, I'm like, you have to tell them why it's great. You have to tell them why it's special. I think sometimes people are so good at what they do, they're like, people should
Can't ever
know. They'll just know. They're going to know it's a good deal. They're going to know that this is a generous offer. I'm like, they don't know it's a generous, good deal if you don't tell them that, if you don't give them anything to compare it to, if you don't talk about how much it costs like to hire a
Mm-hmm.
personal trainer and how you don't have to do that now because we're going to take you step by step and you're going to have a
Mm-hmm.
community and you don't have to do it alone. It's like if you don't tell them that, they don't know, right? And I think that's what the moments thing is so good for. It's like here's what you're experiencing now and exactly why what we have is special and going to work for you. And so I
Yeah.
think dialing in that marketing too is like very, very important right now, where it's like the specificity like matters a lot right now. I think throwing out a general offer and just being like, I have a thing, want to buy it? Like people are gonna be
Yeah.
like, no.
Not really. It's
I
like,
just
no,
spent like $500 at the grocery store. Like, no.
yeah. My non-organic strawberries are now just as much as my organic strawberries. Couldn't find
The
really.
berry economy is killer right
The
now, you
berry,
guys.
right? No, I'm very lucky because I have a lot of, raspberry bushes, and we are recording this at the time where next week is when they're all gonna be
Very
ripe. And I'm
rich
like,
up
I'm
in
gonna have a killing
here.
with my organic raspberries, right? For myself. But I think when it
It's
comes down
thriving in the
to
berry economy.
thriving, everyone. So just live someplace where mysteriously all your raspberry bushes went all the way around your yard.
That
You've
sounds
got them
like
all
a
over the
dream
place
to
now.
me. I'm like, oh my gosh, we don't have anything in Florida. We just have like alligators.
Right. But like when it comes down to, I think like buying decisions, besides the fact like reminding people that you have stuff to sell, right? They are going to buy from someone that they feel seen by, like, oh, she gets me or they get me, and they're my type of person.
Yeah.
I think those two things, and that's where, because I know most of us, we work with people that are personal brands. That's where it like comes out. And if you're like, well, like I'm a very private person, it's like randomly make references to things that you like. right? Like I still talk about Brooklyn Nine-Nine constantly, and the show hasn't been on for years, technically at this point. I was devastated when Andre, who played Captain Raymond Holt, passed away. Like I was just like, I was inconsolable, right? Like talk about those things that are going on, right? Like, are you still really like into like Harry Potter or Hogwarts? Like bring that up, right? Are you someone that is very into, I don't know, Korean skincare, right? Like talk about those little things. I call them like brain hooks, right? Like, oh, they're my type of person. Like, just give them something so that way they can relate to you. Because like all things come to see, people are going to buy from the person that they like the most, and usually they like the most the person that they're kind of like, right? So you can
That's
like
such a
take a stand on some things too.
That's such a good point because I think people feel like I have to like share my life online. And I think like you're a good
Just
example
a
of
little
this.
bit.
I think Liz Wilcox does this like brilliantly. I think I do this too, where
Mhm.
people feel like they know us. We're the faces. Like we're out here. We're doing the camera stuff. We're on social media. We're on podcasts. We're out here talking about our stuff. People see us, right? But if somebody's sick in our life or something is happening or I don't know, lots of different things, like those are not things that we share online. Like people know things about us and our personality, but they don't know what's happening in our personal life. I feel like I feel very private online, right? And
Yeah.
I share a lot about business. I share a lot about personal things I went through, that I was in poverty. I share a lot of things like vulnerably, I think, and openly, but I'm
Mhm.
not like just talking about my personal life. I'm not like talking about like my family stuff and all that. It's just like you get to have a private life and you get to curate what the public sees and like
Yeah.
be a little entertaining for your community. I think it's just fun to share like fun little things you're doing or fun little things you're liking. And it's just kind of a nice way to connect as a human. So, and I think that sets us apart too against like big brands. I'm always like,
Mhm.
I have to compete out here against like Amy Porterfield and like people that have like unlimited amounts of money and like these huge teams and all
Jenna
this.
Kitcher. I think I'm saying her
Yeah,
last name wrong, but like Jenna Kitcher, right? Like she
like
serves as
huge,
Amy.
right? But it's like, but what sets us apart as small creators is like people relate to us and they want to be around us. And like Amy Porterfield's not going to talk to you and her thing. Like she's just not. Like there's so many people in there. But you can come be with me and work with my team, like in our community, right? And they get more access to you. So thinking too about if you're a smaller brand, if you're in weight loss or you're in personal development or like what makes you stand out against these big mega brands, I think it is the personal factor, right? And sharing just
Mhm.
little pieces of what you like and your personality.
Yeah. Like people know that I have kids, but no one sees my children.
That's a great
Like
example.
only my like on Instagram stories, like I have like my close friends list. So like Faith sees my kids, but like that is only going like I know who's on that list. Right? So
Right,
like
right.
people aren't necessarily going to see them. And that's like a line in the sand that I draw. I don't think any. I've never. I think once out of all the anniversaries I've been with my husband, have I posted a picture of the two of us. Like no one knows what Rich looks like. The moment that kid, she has
Right.
a name. He does. He's still around. He's awesome. He's with the dogs right now. I will share my dogs with all of you. You guys can see them. And I know Faith shares her dogs and about her wonderlust lifestyle of like traveling and all the other stuff. We both talk about like our struggles with like creativity burnout and like staying on track. Again, things that we find relevant to the business, like, little things here and there. And again, we're not afraid to like try new things. I know that you've been trying out Facebook ads to see how that works. I've been playing around because I've just been, especially in the summertime, I'm just like, what's just like fun? And like, I've just been having fun over on Instagram. So I'm like, let's go ahead, let's spend the cool $25 on ManyChat and see how much money it makes itself back in a month.
Yeah.
And so like when you see like, like the comment here or DM me for stuff, it's like, yeah. And I think when it comes to creating content, it is, about realizing what makes sense on that particular platform still. I think that like I call it upcycling, but like repurposing, I still think can work. But like when people go to say TikTok, that algorithm isn't pushing stuff like it used to. Like every creator over there is complaining. But like people are going over there with their audio on. So like talking face videos work really, really well. On Instagram, I still think people are going over there reading, right? Which is why you saw for a while those like 3-second reels with those giant captions, right? So it's like there's something to that. But then it's like if it's one of those where that kind of style of content takes you forever and a day to create, and then just create talking heads and see what happens for a while. Like give yourself permission to try different things, but with a strategy behind them, right? Like where are people going to go after this, right? Like, I'm not just going to necessarily create, there's a couple I call like feel good pieces of content, right? As I call it, like, there's just one more try where it's probably not going to have a direct call to action besides just like follow me or share this out. But it's like anything else, like, okay, it's going to go to a freebie and it has like this product, right? So just sort of think ahead a little bit too when you're being intentional about your stuff. And I know one person that I follow, and like I've seen it. Sometimes she just literally like just repurposes something from like 3 weeks ago. Because if you go and you look at your social media analytics, people aren't seeing stuff anyways, right? So like I'll do it where I'm like, I'll do it as a reel, and then I'll do it as a post, like a carousel post. And carousel posts do really, really well with my followers, right? It doesn't necessarily go out to a lot of people, but I'm like, they will. And then I will like use it in an email or vice versa. So don't think that it's like, oh, right. And I know like, I don't know if your team is using like the Meta like content planner, but it's like, okay, I can create an email and get a lot of response. And then I can create a post and I can have it scheduled for 2 weeks from now. It's going to go up on IG. So it's like, oh, it's that reminder if somebody sees it twice.
Yeah, totally. I think that's a great point. I loved what you said about like, I'm just gonna like get ManyChat and like see what happens. But I love like the lightheartedness in which you were talking about that. And I just want to highlight that for you guys. And it's like, where could you experiment in your business? And instead of it being like, oh my God, this is like a make or break moment. This is like a really important launch. It's just like, let's just see what happens if we get ManyChat. Let me see if I can make some money doing it. And like,
Yeah.
where can you be more playful through all this, because I think that's what will generate the kind of ideas you guys need right now to be
Mhm.
able to get through a time like this where it's like things are a little harder. Things are a little
Yeah.
more challenging right now to make money online. But if you can go to a place of like, let's just see what happens. Let me try this. I'm just going to see what happens and like have fun. And it's the summer and I'm going to be in that energy. And a lot
Yeah.
of times the ideas you need, I think, come from that place. So I just wanted to highlight that. I could
Yeah.
talk to you all day, but we have to record an episode for your pod. So I want to wrap up. Give everybody like, where can we go be obsessed with you? Where can we go follow you? Where can we go get all your things, grab all your goodies,
Oh,
stalk you,
all
all the
the
things.
things. All right. So you can, if you enjoy listening to podcasts, because you're listening to this one right now, we'll probably have a link down below to the Do the Brave Thing online business podcast. You can always go over to katedoster.com and it'll have links to everything over there. Like I said, I've really just been enjoying Instagram. So that's where I've been showing up. It's Kate_Doster. I have a whole bunch of freebies. We have a freebie about how to create your own freebie that serves and sells. So that way, again, even if you don't have a product yet, it's going to get you the people to be able to sell the product to. So that's over at katedoster.com/freebies. We have the auto webinar thing that we have been talking about a little bit before about how to host your own bundles. You go to katedoster.com/list for that to see if hosting a free or paid bundle is actually going to be something that's going to work for your business or not. And if
I
you're
have
into
to pause you.
powerlifting,
I have to pause you. We have to talk about
okay.
powerlifting, but the bundle thing, I just want you guys to know, like Kate was my first business coach and she's the one that like put me on to bundles, which has changed my whole business model and the trajectory of my
17.
business in ways like I never even imagined. And the things we have on deck for next year too are incredible. And I just want to highlight like Kate has run a lot of very successful bundles and she knows what she's doing. And I was just telling her before this episode, one of my pet peeves is like all these people host one bundle and now they're going to turn around and teach the strategy. And Kate
Mhm.
really knows it and she really knows the details of it and the stuff. And so I just want to like put that endorsement out there for you guys. If you want to learn how to do bundles and you want somebody to help you and you want, she has templates in there and all the steps and like everything. Also, I love that every time you guys do it, you turn around and you like update it and add new strategies and stuff in
Mhm.
there. And so I definitely recommend her, and I would be very discerning about who you're buying from for these little
Right.
business strategies.
As we had talked about, so you can go to
Yeah.
katedoster.com/list to be able to watch. It's like a 20-minute video where we just kind of really go over like this training is for people that like they've been in my audience, right? Or they've been in Faith's audience. So they know kind of like what a bundle is in a concept. So I'm not necessarily going to walk you through it. Although in the podcast episode that I have with Faith, maybe we'll go over a little bit what that is if it's a newer concept too. But it's really about how to make sure your bundle is a success because there are more out there. So really it goes over like the biggest mistakes that people are making and how we can be able to circumvent this. And again, why I love them and why they changed both of the trajectories of our business is it is still, even though there are more of them, especially in the B2 business space than there was, it is still the most, I call it like little guy proof way to grow your email list, to give you
Yes.
that momentum.
Yes.
Because when you're going from 0 to say, even if you just get 500 new subscribers, that is huge for your confidence building.
Mhm.
Like unbelievably, right? So I wanted to be able to provide a way that didn't necessarily rely on algorithms or ads or again, all things. And on our episode, hopefully we can talk a little bit about AI because I feel like that's the other half. We'll talk about bundles and AI in mine.
Yeah.
Like people are like so scared of like Google, like, and search traffic has gone down. So I'm like, if this is something where you don't have to rely on an algorithm that you can do, technically, even if you don't have any other product, right? Like, I'm like this can work. You just need to know who you want to help and with what, and a bundle can definitely get it done
I
for
think
you.
the thing that has blown my mind consistently about that strategy the most the whole time is that like, I have all these friends that spend a lot of money on ads and grow their email list and it's expensive. Like they have big ad budgets and I'm like, not only am I growing my email list consistently with these events, but I'm making money off of them. So like
Mhm.
not only am I not having to pay for ads, I'm literally getting paid to grow my email list and our audience still really loves them. Like
It's
even
what
in
you do.
B2B where there's a lot, like people still want to come to ours because they know like me and Kelsey are curating it and checking everybody's stuff and we're, looking for like we spend a lot of time pitching people to give us really good stuff and like really trying to make it the best we can. And so anyway, I just think it's such a genius strategy,
I love it.
truly. So I would consider it. I would definitely go check that out if you're curious about learning more. Definitely go watch Kate's webinar because she's the superstar in my mind.
Why, thank you. I appreciate that.
She's the person to go to. Shot me everything I know.
Aw. But again, notice how Faith actually implements stuff and she iterates things, right? So, like, I might have taught her some concepts, but then Faith goes and makes it her own. She adds her own unique flavor and she constantly shows up. And guess what? She does it just one more time. I think that's the only thing you get from this episode. Just one more time, y'all. Just one more
One more
time.
time. One more
All
time.
I'm going for right now. Just one more time.
All right. Go check out Kate at katedoster.com. Stalk her Instagram. Oh, you were going to tell us about the powerlifting. Tell
Oh, yeah. I was going to say,
I,
so if
I
you're into
two
this is
ADHD
like,
podcast queens. I'm like, let me sidetrack you.
this is one of these things that again, like native platform, I feel that if somebody is willing to watch your Instagram stories, that they are like into a more like they want to see a little bit more of your personal stuff, and you can like share some stuff that you wouldn't necessarily put on your feed. Occasionally I'll sprinkle it into my email list, but I'm like, if you're like hunting me down for it, so if you're interested in any of the powerlifting stuff, it is always just on my Instagram stories, Kate_Doster. There was a cool like 3 weeks where I didn't post anything. And people were sending me DMs, which I thought was just hysterical, being like, where's your lifting? I'm like, you guys really care about like me bench pressing? And it's one of those things that, especially in this space. So I may or may not look like my website. Okay, I don't look like the same person on my website because I never got around to having my designer remake a website.
I don't look
So
like my pictures on my website either.
technically there's 90 pounds less of me. And so when people,
Yeah,
I
huge,
finally changed it
huge
on my Zoom because
transformation.
people had a very big shock because my face doesn't look like my face. So I finally did change that over. But I think because everyone in the health and wellness space is so much like be smaller, be smaller, be smaller. But like mine's always be stronger, be stronger, be stronger. And because like I don't know if this is our ADHD or what, but like you kind of get competitive. And that's where like the getting smaller came from. Cause I'm like, if I can save my strength, like I needed to get smaller for my health, guys. Like my health markers were very bad at that point. But I'm like, I can set national records and all that. So if you're like, yeah, I want somebody that like wants to get strong and not just tiny, then follow me over there. I'm currently working on my bench press. Deadlift is my absolute favorite one ever, but working on benching right now because I'm
It
not good.
also just goes to show like you're not going to be a fitness influencer as far as I know or start teaching like powerlifting or anything, but that stuff can go together because the brand is you, right? And so Kate is the face of her brand, and so she's just showing things that she's doing in her life and things that she likes, not necessarily personal details and her kids and her husband and relationship. It's like no, but she's showing like the human part of her, and the
Mhm.
people that love that are going to want to work with you over like Amy Porterfield or somebody who's huge, right? Because they're like, oh, but I love Kate and I watch her lift weights every day.
Right? Or like go walking. And like, again, it is one of those things. And you would be surprised, right? That like what people can kind of latch onto with those brain hooks. And they were really into it. I'm really into it. It's something that I enjoy. It's a great habit that I have. I would be like when it comes to business, I'm very much like like a softer touch. Like I'm not really like super confrontational about things. Like I'll tell people and I'm like, yeah, it's probably not great. We should go there. But like when it comes to like fitness and like macros and stuff, I'm very just like, don't. Like everyone feels I'm like, no.
Let me give you all
So
my opinions.
they would be like, oh my goodness, she's such a hard ass. I'm like, I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like, I think when it comes to business, like you can't, and I guess this would be the second lesson, like you can have launch goals, but like you cannot change a person's behavior to really get them to take out their wallet. It is still very dependent on somebody else's behavior. Right. But you can control your controllables. You can show up. You can have different messaging. You can try things like we've talked about, right? You can control those. You can check those boxes. When it comes to health and fitness, you need to check your own damn boxes. So like the reason why you're not getting results is because you didn't check your damn boxes. Like, don't come at me. Oh, I don't like vegetables. Like, I don't care. You eat them now. Why does she get so mean? Be an adult. So if I ever did switch to health and fitness,
I feel very triggered by this because Matt's always telling me to eat more vegetables.
But like, I don't care what vegetable it is. Like, corn's not technically a vegetable, everyone. But like, I don't care if you eat cucumbers as your vegetable or canned green beans. Eat them. You're an adult. So I have no sympathy for that particular side of things.
So if you need some practical business tips or some like fitness direction,
I will answer all the fitness questions that you guys have. Like, go right up. People send me DMs about this all the time. Like, all right, I usually promote my friend. He was also my coach for a long time. So like, I'll tell you to go over to him eventually. But like, why not?
It has been like so interesting to follow because it has been a really intense journey that you've been on. And I've seen the whole thing because you really like shared it like when you first started working out your house to like now we're doing like powerlifting competitions. Like it is really interesting just to see what people are doing, even though it's like you're my business coach, right? And that's not related to business. It doesn't mean I'm like, I don't want to see your weightlifting. It's like, I think people are just kind of nosy about people like they see on the internet, right? So I'm like, of course I want to see what Kate's doing.
Right.
Like, of course I want to see so-and-so's new kitchen remodel. I'm like, of course I do. I'm like,
when you guys were redoing the bathroom, when you guys were redoing the bathroom and the Airbnb.
I will never do a house reno ever again. We renovated one bathroom. Before this week, the house we went under contract for, we were gonna gut down to the studs and like, or we were gonna like renovate the whole thing. And I was like, I'm a house flipper now. Like this is fine. And then we renovated one bathroom and it was such a nightmare. I was like, thank God we didn't get that other house. And I told Matt, I was like, we're never doing that again. I was like, we are not doing that. It was just like, you know, we tried to do it ourselves and the house is dirty and there's stuff everywhere and we both work from home and we both work all the time and then the bathroom's tore up and there's like construction in our kitchen and I was just like, this is not for me. Like that kind of stuff makes me way crazy. And I was like, I'm so glad we're not house flipping. So anyway, all right, let's go record an episode for your podcast. You guys go over and check out Kate's podcast. We're going to do an episode over there and I'll link her other episodes below if you want to hear more of us. Mm-hmm. I feel like these podcasts are always just an excuse for me to talk to you because I love talking to you. Like, if you want to hear more of us hanging out, talking about all the things, we'll link all the podcast episodes and link all Kate's stuff down below. And thank you so much for being here and sharing all your tips and thoughts with us. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.